Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. Jan Michael here, along with my son, who is going to be causing chaos in the room as I record. If this is the first video of mine you're watching, sometimes I have to have him running around because there's nobody to watch him, and good luck controlling a 1-year-old child from not making noises. This is impossible. Now, you're seeing the video, you're probably thinking to yourself, Jan, what the hell? January predictions? Like, what nonsense is this? We're like in June, dude. What the fuck's going on? And I got a good answer for you. See, every couple of years, I try to change up how I do my Oscar predictions just to keep things fresh, tackle things from a new point of view, and it keeps me more interested in the subject when things kind of shift and I have to think about different ways on tackling predictions. Not only that, but I think most recently, especially with this year, I see a lot more channels being created talking about the Oscars. And a lot of them are essentially done the same way. There are, predicting what films have not come out yet that are going to be these big juggernaut Oscar contenders, and they fit them into the categories as the potential for each film is kind of theorized on or even revealed as we get closer to the release dates. There's nothing wrong with that, right? The biggest Oscar channels out there, like, the Oscar Expert, they do that with such, detail that it's almost impossible to kind of follow up and add to the conversation. Like, what can I really say that they haven't, or that, places like Reddit, there was this really great Reddit post, talking about 100 films that could potentially get Oscar nominated and the reason for each one. That is just so detailed. There is really nothing I can add to the conversation that these type of individuals haven't already kind of delved into. So instead of do future predictions, if you will, I've decided to kind of tackle it in a different way. I'm only going to be playing around with the films that have already released to kind of work within the constraint of only being able to choose those films. Now, obviously, because of that, my predictions themselves are going to be fully realized with, all the things that we know almost for sure are going to be huge Oscar players because officially they haven't been released yet. But I think this does something unique in the sense that in order to kind of fill out the gaps as best as I can, I'm going to be talking about films that are good, have great elements to it, but we know at the end of the day are just not going to be Oscar contenders. And I think that's important because it really gives a shout out to these films that should get recognition, just they don't. I think that is very important that, Oscar contenders aren't just these big juggernaut films or the small indies that blew up in popularity. There's a lot more films out there that are Oscar worthy that by the end of the year, they're just going to be forgotten about. So that's the route that I want to take with it. And originally, this was going to be a kind of catch-up video where I talked about everything released from January to May, but I found myself after recording that video and kind of looking through the footage that I rushed through a lot of those films, so that video wouldn't be over an hour long, and that defeated the purpose of giving these films a shout out. So I decided I'm going to tackle these month by month. Of course, I'm going to release a lot of these early videos in quick succession to kind of get us caught up to the current month. But just know that's why I'm starting here with January. Next year, when I really tackle this from the very front, it will be much more interesting to see how it evolves, at least differently, because here I have hindsight. In those future videos, I'm not really going to get hindsight. It's just going to be on what's popular right there, right now. So sit back, relax. Please note that these are going to be listed by release of theatrical date. And then if I go into a film festival, I will list those in alphabetical order at the very end. So there's structure to these videos, I promise you, even if it does seem chaotic at points. So yes, once again, sit back, relax as I go through my January predictions for the Oscars 2027. 28 years later, the Bone Temple. As Spike is inducted into Jimmy Crystal's gang on the mainland, Dr. Kelson makes a discovery that could alter the world. Just to let you guys know, as I said, the way that I'm structuring these is in alphabetical order of the movie itself, not the person who's getting the nomination. But on that note, you can see that I am actually including the name of the people who would get the nomination, or at least the person that I think would get the nomination if they made it to the Oscars. There are certain categories that I wasn't 100% sure of who would get the Oscar nomination. So if you notice a name that you're like, no, that wouldn't actually be the person who gets in, let me know. I'll correct it. I'm just trying to give people their dues as best as I can here. So, anyways, 28 years later, The Bone Temple. Really, there's only one category this film could potentially get an Oscar nomination in, and that is makeup and hairstyling. The previous film was very much talked about in terms of it potentially getting a makeup and hairstyling Oscar nomination. It ultimately didn't do so, and I mean, I think we kind of knew that that was probably going to be the case. I mean, zombie films don't really get into the Oscars, even in makeup and hairstyling, even though there's a gratuitous amount of it in those type of films. But there was just some pedigree to the previous film that made it more of a standout than previous films of its nature. And heck, it did get into the Critics' Circle, or the Critics' Choice Awards. So there was that. The film itself got into BAFTAs for Best British Film. So there was something there. There was something there. It just ultimately didn't happen at the end of the day. And because of that, I think most people are quick to dismiss The Bone Temple for the same award. But I do think there is a slight possibility that it could also get into makeup and hairstyling, especially if this ends up being a weaker category than last year. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. It's just gonna all depend on what the competition looks like. And normally you would need something different from the previous iteration to kind of show that, hey, they are doing things differently. And I do think this film does have that. I point to the scene at the end with Ray Fiennes and that great performance that he does when he dresses up as a certain character. Let's say, I'm not going to ruin it because that's hands down one of the best moments of the film for me. But just, I love that whole scene. I do think there's just enough different done with the makeup. It's not just the zombie effects or the zombie blood, guts, whatever the case may be. There is more to it than just that. So I can't say that I'm 100% positive it's going to get in. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. But again, I got to give people their dues. I got to take certain swings, especially in the earlier months, to kind of fill out some of these categories. And that's exactly what I'm doing with The Bone Temple. And that is the only theatrical released film in January that has any potential Oscar prospects. But I mean, is that really so surprising? In the words of the great Red Letter Media,
fuck you, it's January!
Yeah, so I mean, there's that for you. But what we do have in January is the Sundance Film Festival, and there are movies that premiered there that do have a good chance of getting into the Oscars. Most notably, the documentary films. Because the Oscars really love to pull films from Sundance in the documentary section to get into the Oscars. So let's go ahead and tackle some of these, along with some other premieres that happened at Sundance that I think could be Oscar contenders. American Doctor. When three American doctors, Palestinian, Jewish, and Zoroastrian, enter Gaza to save lives, they find themselves caught between medicine and politics, risking everything to expose the truth. Based on a synopsis like that, you know the Oscars are going to take that type of film seriously. Just the harmony between all these different American doctors, the things that they're trying to accomplish, the kind of barriers that they come across, I think that is a shoo-in for an Oscar nomination. Now, I do hesitate a little bit because the director, as far as I know, hasn't really made a splash with any sort of like prior film. I mean, there's nothing here that really I can point to and be like, hey, this has a history of being an Oscar-nominated prospecting film of some sort. But again, sometimes you just have to go off either like a really good unique title, which the Oscars love to nominate like unique titles in like the shorts and the documentary sections. A great synopsis, which I do think this has, or something that's important to the terms of what's happening in our society here and today. And I think this essentially almost tackles all three, at least two of the three. So that's why I think this has a very good shot at getting into the documentary feature film section. But as you'll see, there's so many other documentaries that have won awards, are coming from well-renowned directors who have previously been nominated. It's going to be a stacked year for documentaries for sure. And you'll see how I start to second guess myself as the video continues. The Baddest Speechwriter of All. Martin Luther King Jr.'s attorney and speechwriter shares personal sacrifices and revelations from his civil rights movement experience, providing a behind-the-scenes perspective of this historical era. And here's a film that I'm like almost 100% sure is definitely going to get into the documentary short film section at the Oscars. You've got the interesting title, you've got that great synopsis, and you've got the talent behind it. Which I know you're looking at Stephen Curry being like, does basketball translate to movie? And hey, that's happened in the past, so don't knock that out. But really, it's more Penn Bradfoot that I'm really looking at, who has previously been nominated 3 times in this category and has won twice. So yes, the talent here is very much apparent. I'm so certain this one's going to get in that if you do predictions on the shorts, this should definitely be on your predictions. It's almost a shoo-in, quite honestly. But that's what I got for you guys there. If you do predictions on the shorts, let me know if this is on your list. Or if you don't, does this seem like a shoo-in in your mind? The Boys and the Bees traces a family's journey toward freedom, nurturing their bees and their young sons amid Georgia's shifting seasons while they learn to care for the land that sustains them. This one won a special jury prize at Sundance, and as such, I am keeping a close eye on it. Now, I'm not as sold on this one as the Baddest Speechwriter of All, so if I were to be ranking these on the confidence I have, Baddest Speechwriter would definitely be number 1. And this one would be number 2, which I know it's what it is here, but this is alphabetical, I remind you. So, but that's what I have for you here. Again, just because it won that prize, I am a little bit more kind of keeping it on my radar, just because those are the ones that you need to win a prize in order to qualify to get into the Oscars. So the prize winners are definitely the ones that I'm keeping a closer eye on. If they don't win a prize, again, it has to have like some sort of meaningful synopsis that pertains to our society right here, right now, or just has to have just such an interesting topic that I think the Oscars would pay attention to it. But that's what I got for you in this one. Crisis actor. Fired from her day job, an impulsive actress crashes a support group and spirals into a chaotic night that forces her to face her addiction to drama. This won the Short Film Jury Prize at the Sundance Film Festival. So again, just one that I am keeping a close eye on. The reviews for this one haven't been as strong as some of the previous shorts I've been talking about thus far, but it winning a prize, I gotta keep it into consideration. And truthfully, I mean, there's shorts that have gotten into the Oscars where I don't think they're that good, but they still get in anyway, so you just gotta take that into consideration. Plus, I mean, this is revolving around an actress, and the Oscars, sometimes it's a circle jerk production. You just need something that really relates to them. And what's more relatable than acting? So that's pretty much all I have for this one. Don't Tell Mama. A Montenegrin father takes his teenage daughter on an unforgettable dinner date. This is an example of one that really didn't win any prizes, but of course is still going to be entered in other film festivals, so still has a chance to win and be considered for an Oscar nomination. But the premise is what's causing me to think it could potentially go on to get an Oscar nomination. I know it's kind of vague. This could either be a sweet story or it could go down a very dark path. And the truth is, from what I understand, it's really more of a drama about the immigration experience, about kids that have grown up here in America and how the values kind of shift between like the generation that ended up moving here versus the generation that is growing up here. So again, a very important topic to our day and age. Honestly, an important topic just in general, because that's like a story that's going to be timeless. So especially how they tackle it, I think I'm very interested to see. And if it does do a very good job with its messaging, again, could be something that people remember and want to vote for. And it's just gotta win a festival award now, and that's all it needs. But I think there's enough here to really keep it on your radar. Everybody to Kenmure Street. Glasgow residents abandoned their daily routines to gather on Kenmure Street after learning authorities plan to deport their neighbors, sparking an impromptu grassroots movement. Come on, that is an important topic in our day and age, especially here in America. So most definitely, that is really high on my predictions list. Not only that, but you have the interesting title, and this did win a special jury prize at Sundance, so I think the cards are lined up just right. Cards, stars, what is this? One battle after another? And you don't roll cards. Anyways, so yeah, I think just the stars are aligned to get this one into the Oscars, and I'm very interested to see this one when I do manage to get my hands on it. Frank and Louie. A man serving life sentence takes an in-prison job caring for infirm prisoners suffering from memory losses. The start of the job was for his parole, but it turns into a deep emotional and transformative relationship. This one is all about the performances, though I should mention it also has a chance of getting into international feature film. But again, with how stacked that category is going to be, I'm not going to include it in that category. But I do want to give a shout out to the performances, especially lead actor and supporting actor. For lead actor, you have Kingsley Benadir. And for supporting actor, you have Rob Morgan, who I hear totally steals the show as the synopsis's prisoner that is suffering from memory losses. And from what I understand, does tug at the heartstring the most. If you're looking for good performances, if that is something that you want out of your movie, I think this is one that you should definitely keep on your radar. I don't think it has a chance of getting into the acting categories, but again, I gotta give some shout outs here, especially to films that are just gonna fall under the radar. The Friend's House is Here. Two women in Tehran's underground art scene create a haven of freedom and sisterhood until their circle is discovered, forcing them to struggle for each other's survival. This is the first international feature film I am including onto my list, and quite honestly, international feature film is quite stacked this year. It is incredibly competitive, which no doubt you know, Cannes having recently been over, there is a shit ton of international films just there alone that are most likely going to get into the Oscars. So I definitely need to give some of these other films their due before I get to that month and knock a lot of them off the list. This one did win a special jury prize at Sundance, so I do think there is some consideration. Again, the synopsis makes me very curious to see how the story unfolds. So yeah, if you kind of missed this one, I implore you to kind of go back and like at least look at it. Just because I do think a lot of the other international feature films, the bigger ones, are really going to overshadow these other ones that did get good reviews, that did get prizes. They're just not as big as some of the ones that other people are talking about. Hot Water. Mother and son hit the road west, stopping at diners, motels, and hot springs along the way. This one has a single lone acting prospect for the lead actress, which is Lubna Azabal, who is actually not a stranger to the Oscars. Two films that she's been in before have been nominated for international feature film, which are Paradise Now and Incendi. So hey, maybe her track record continues and she manages to break into the Oscars herself now. I don't think that's very possible as a lone nominee, especially when your name is not so well known. But again, just wanted to give her the shout out. I hear she's very funny and very dramatic. This is a comedy drama. Once again, a genre that the Oscars don't always typically go for, so she definitely has an uphill climb. But again, if that sounds interesting to you, I would definitely say keep it on your radar and check it out when you can. The Invite. Joe and Angela's marriage is on thin ice. When they invite their enigmatic upstairs neighbors for a dinner party, the night spirals into unexpected places. Alright, you guys all know The Invite. In fact, I think it's about to have its full-on release, like theatrical release, not that far from when I'm recording this video, so definitely it's coming back up in conversation sometime soon. The biggest ones that I've been hearing about are the performances, with the exception of Seth Rogen. Poor Seth Rogen is not included amongst the four in terms of potential Oscar performance nominees. I'm not going to include it in the performances because I truly do think that is a very, very long shot of getting in, especially when you have such a big cast of potential Oscar nominees. How do you really pick and choose? I think that is a problem that the Oscars haven't quite figured out yet, unless the film is like this juggernaut and they want to nominate everyone. So no, I think the only real prospect for it is in the adapted screenplay category, which I'm going to include it in for now. Like, if it does get Oscar nominations for its performances, cool, awesome. I just think the amount of people you can choose from is gonna confuse the voters. They're easily confused, so you know, you gotta ease them into the movies here. Josephine. After 8-year-old Josephine accidentally witnesses a crime in Golden Gate Park, she acts out in search of a way to regain control of her safety, while adults are helpless to console her. Definitely the film that made the biggest splash at Sundance. This has Coda-like vibes where it could take it all the way to the Oscars, and I think could potentially get quite a bit of nominations if it has a really, really good day. Now, obviously, it's got some steep competition, especially as we get into the later part of the year. But for now, just based on January, this is one that I'm going to include into Best Picture. And whenever I do this, I'm going to type down every single potential category it can get into. I'll try to not go too crazy. Obviously, if something just has no chance in one particular category, I won't mention it. But if it has somewhat of a chance, I will include it. So here we go. Obviously, Best Picture, as I just said. Director for Beth de Arajo, I think, is in the cards, especially if the film does become very Coda-like, is very much talked about by the end of the year. You have actress for Mason Reeves. I know she's very young, so it's hard for this type of actress to get into the lead actress. More than likely, she would get pushed into supporting actress, but from what I understand, she is the lead actress in the film, so I'm not going to do that as of right now. Supporting actor for Channing Tatum, which I hear is very good in the movie as well. He's never got an Oscar nomination. Roofman was a big one for him. A lot of people started kind of throwing his name around for that film. So I do think he potentially has an Oscar nomination coming in the future. We'll see if this is the one that does it for him. I am going to throw Gemma Chan in. Not that I've heard her performance is like on the same level, but if the film is just very beloved, I think it will easily get into like the nominations in general. So I got to keep her on the table as well. Original screenplay, of course. Casting, especially because you're casting a young girl who like brings it, right? She definitely makes the movie what it is. And I think that's very important, to find a very talented childlike actress that can do these dramatic scenes is very important. And so finding that is like striking gold. So yes, I would include casting in here. Cinematography, I hear, is very, very strong in the film. I do include it in film editing because if this ends up being like a top 5 contender, editing is something that I don't like to dismiss. And last of all, the score by Miles Ross, I hear, is also very good. So with this one, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Oscar nominations. If it has like the best day ever, if I'm being more of a realist, if this does get into Best Picture, really I could see it maybe getting into supporting actor and screenplay along with Best Picture, which I know sounds pretty low if it were to get into Best Picture, but hey, in recent years we've seen Best Picture get in with just 2 nominations. So Coda itself, I think, only got 3 as well. So I mean, that really would follow the trajectory of Coda if it only got 3. So that's what I got for you there. Josephine, the first big Oscar contender to really keep on your radar. Knife, the attempted murder of Salman Rushdie. New footage of Rushdie's wife shows his recovery path after the attack, capturing both physical healing and renewed hope. Based on his memoir, Knife, Meditations After an Attempted Murder. Another documentary to keep our eyes on, this one actually from a very prominent director in this category, Alex Gibney, who has been nominated twice before and has won once. I believe that was for Taxi to the Dark Side. I believe that was a 90s documentary. I did see that one, very good. Opened a lot of people's eyes up to that kind of tragedy, in Guantanamo Bay, just people being treated unfairly there. So we'll see if he actually manages to kind of do another documentary here that really opens our eyes and shocks us, wows us, really brings us into the subject and what actually occurred here. Definitely one to keep our eyes on. The Liars. When Jamie is caught by mall security, Matthias must convince a stranger to pretend to be their father to get him released. This one I'm keeping a close eye on because it won the Short Film Special Jury Award for acting. Now, live action short films typically do better when there are child actors in the movie. And seeing as this not only has child actors, but potentially really good child actors, that is definitely one that you want to keep on your radar. So definitely going on my list. I would probably rank it pretty high just based on all that. Living with a Visionary. After 50 years of marriage, John must care for his wife while learning to live alongside her vivid hallucinations. That synopsis fits so perfectly into the animated category. In this instance, the short animated category. So I'm very, very curious to see what they do with the animation. There's just so much you can do with the animation and that premise. I'm very much looking forward to it. And to top it off, the cherry on top is that it also won the Short Film Special Jury Award for animation. So I'm very, very interested in seeing this one. And yeah, I would definitely put this really high up if you're doing predictions for the shorts categories. Marga in Mexico City. In the wake of Selena Quintanilla's murder, Marga's life takes an unexpected turn at 21 weeks pregnant during a surprise visit to Mexico City. So this is one that I do think the synopsis is interesting enough, but the film itself didn't really win any prizes, so it would seem to be the weakest of my predictions thus far. The only thing is that the reviews here have been very strong. Enough so that I'm kind of keeping an eye on it to see if it does go on to win at other award film festivals and really starts to make a bigger splash. If the reviews continue to be that strong, I can see people's eyes kind of fall on it. And at the very least, get into the short list. Maybe not go all the way to get an Oscar nomination, but yeah, I could see getting into the short list. So I'm going to be keeping it on my list for now. Nuisance Bear. A polar bear's traditional migration path leads it into populated areas, sparking conflict between human interests and wild nature as the animal struggles to survive in a changing world. If this title seems familiar to you, it is because Nuisance Bear was previously submitted into the Oscars in the documentary short categories. It did get shortlisted, but it ultimately didn't get into the Oscars. This is essentially the full feature-length film of the documentary now. And as such, I'm kind of hesitant to really even include it on the list. Like, if the short version didn't get into the Oscars, what are the chances that a longer full documentary version could get in? I'm not so sure. I did like the short. I thought the short was very cute and actually pretty funny. It didn't have any spoken dialogue though, so I don't think you can really do that with the full feature-length film, especially if you are kind of coming at it through the perspective of what the synopsis says. So I do think they need to kind of branch out and really talk about more of those things. It can't just be silent. But I don't know if they do or not. The only other reason I'm really including it here is because it did ultimately go on to win the Documentary Jury Grand Prize, which is a very impressive award to win at Sundance. And as such, maybe, yeah, the full feature length does go all the way. Like, maybe it delivers more and it really is more impactful as a full feature length. But I'm still hesitant. We'll see what happens. The only living pickpocket in New York. When a theft goes awry, a veteran pickpocket is sent on a mission through New York to reclaim it. Only two potential categories here for this film. The first is for lead actor for John Turturro, which I really would like to see John get his first Oscar nomination. I always remember him in Barton Fink. He's fantastic in that movie. That might be one of the few times he came really close to getting an Oscar nomination, but would he go on to get a nomination here for this film? I guess it's just going to depend on how stacked the category is, it is looking pretty stacked, so it's probably not going to be his year. But he does have a better chance of getting in because I also hear the screenplay is also very strong. So if screenplay gets in, I think he has a better chance of getting in, as this pair rather than just him by himself. But we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to seeing the film. If it's giving us a great John Turturro performance, I'm on board. Paper Trail. A life seen through paper. And that's it. I mean, what more do you have? We hold papers every day. We use papers every day. What more do you need? Really, what more do you need in the animated short film category? This also has Don Hertzfeldt directing it, which He's been nominated twice in this category before, not just once, twice. So yeah, maybe this is the one that finally takes him on to a win. This also won a special jury prize, so I think, once again, the stars are aligned for this to get into the Oscars. I'm very much looking forward to seeing it. Just the concept with animation, there's so much you could do with it, so yeah, definitely keeping this one on my radar. Queen of Chess. Hungarian chess prodigy Judith Bolgar challenges champion Garry Kasparov and her controlling father over 15 years, breaking gender barriers to become the greatest female player ever and one of history's finest. I think the Oscars really like to nominate these type of films where first it's like a particular like sport or event, something like this. I think of, I forget if it was last year or the year before, where it was like the only female player like in an orchestra band, like those type of stories, like women empowerment in a particular like subject where it's normally male dominated, especially when they're kind of breaking out of a controlled environment. So I think just by synopsis alone, you've got a very good chance of getting in. It's been getting pretty good reviews. It's not the best reviews out of all the documentaries I've talked about thus far, but strong enough to keep an eye on it. It's also a Netflix film, and Netflix films do tend to get into the Oscars quite a bit, so 3 for 3, and if that's not enough, you also have director Rory Kennedy directing it, who has previously been nominated in this category before, so yeah, I think this one does have a lot of things working in its favor to get into the Oscars. The only thing that's really holding me back is that the reviews haven't been the best out of all the documentaries I've spoken about thus far, but again, that doesn't always matter with the Oscars. I think they just get in things sometimes based on premise alone, but I don't know how they pick. There's something screwy going on there sometimes, but we'll see if this one's deserving of it or not. Soul Patrol. Vietnam War's first black special ops team reunites to share their untold story, revealing hidden military history and exploring whether confronting the past can heal old wounds. Oh yeah, this one definitely seems like a shoo-in for the documentary awards. Heck, it even went on to win the documentary directing prize at Sundance, so definitely on my radar. However, now we've run into the first problem. You can see now I have 6 nominees in the category, which means I've got to remove one. And if I have to remove one out of the ones that I've talked about thus far, I'm going to go with Nuisance Bear. I'm sorry, you didn't get in as a short. I just don't know if you're going to get in as a feature-length film. Now, I'm not actually deleting it. You'll kind of see like something like maybe me crossing it out. It's still on here. Whenever I talk about another documentary, it'll still show up because I do think it's something that you should still be considering. And things change. If I see Nuisance Bear like start to win like major prizes everywhere, maybe I'll swap it out. Again, these type of things can change. It's just what I'm feeling as of right here, right now. So, Nuisance Bear, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to kick you out for now, but you're not done. You're still on my list somewhere. I'll just consider you a number 6 for now. To Hold a Mountain. In Montenegro's highlands, a shepherd mother and daughter defend their ancestral land from NATO military training threats, recalling their family's past violence. Whew, another documentary feature film, and with the added benefit that this one could potentially get into the international feature film section as well. I'm not ultimately going to do that because I said that category is completely stacked, but I do think it has a better chance of getting into documentary, especially because it won top prize at Sundance. Again, a very impressive award to win. So yes, I do think I have to take this one a little bit more seriously. That does mean I have to get rid of something else, and good Lord, I don't know. I don't know. Oh, Jesus. I think I'm going to get rid of Queen of Chess for now, but know that I'm not feeling good about it. Because I can see Queen of Chess getting it. Like, everything it needs is, like, right there. Yeah. I'll probably kind of play around with this section a little bit later on. But yeah, you can see this is tough. This is already getting tough, and it is just the January films. Oh boy. Undertone. The host of a popular paranormal podcast becomes haunted by terrifying recordings mysteriously sent her way. Okay, hold it. Shh. I know there's a sound, but keep it down, because I know you're like, what the fuck, Jim? What are you... Undertone and Oscar nominee? I get it. It's not gonna be an Oscar nominee. I'm not fooling myself. I'm not. Look, I got to, you know, fill out certain categories, especially this early on in the year. Otherwise, certain ones will be blank for a long period of time until we get to the serious contenders in that category. And look, I get it. Undertone, not a great film. But, and many people have talked about this, it has great sound design. You could be a bad movie, a mediocre movie, and still have good elements within it. So this, again, is a shout out to those who do put in work into their craft. I want to give shout outs to the people that really do deserve to be in the Oscar conversation, even if we know by the end of the day they're not gonna be in the Oscars. So that's what I'm doing here with Undertone. I hear great sound design. No, I have not seen the film. I'm sorry, the reviews really made me go, nah, it's not for me. But hey, you guys have said it, the critics have said it, so yes, I'm gonna include it in the sound category for now. The Wait. Desperate to save what is left of his family during the height of the Great Depression, a battle-scarred veteran is hired to help smuggle a fortune in gold across 100 miles of impenetrable wilderness. This only has one Oscar prospect, and that is for lead actor for Ethan Hawke, who has been nominated 5 times and is yet to win. Like, I think it's time to give him an Oscar, guys. I think he's paid his dues. I truly do think he just needs the right project, and, like, it's a shoo-in. Doesn't even have to be his best work. I just think he's so respected, has been nominated so many times before. He just needs to give a really good performance in a very... I don't even say popular movie, but just in a very big movie, and I think they'll give it to him. Is The Wait that movie? Probably not. To be honest, I do think it's a long shot for him to kind of get in, but I don't think it's impossible. I do think he's one of those actors that's just so well respected and is so good that he could potentially be a lone nominee in the acting category. And heck, almost was last year. Like, if Blue Moon didn't get a screenplay nomination as well, I still think Ethan Hawke would have gotten in by himself for that performance. So that is just how good of an actor he is and how well respected he is. I don't know if The Wait's really going to do that for him, especially with the type of film it is. But I do still want to give it a mention because I do hear he's really good here, and it is a very transformative performance. So yeah, let's give him his due. Keep it on everybody's minds. Wicker. A fisherwoman lives on the fringes of a seaside village. She is unmarried, stinky, and constantly teased. One day, sick of her stuffy, narrow-minded neighbors, she orders a wicker husband for herself. This is the final film I'm going to talk about for this month. It is only a makeup and hairstyling prospect type of film, which is, I think, appropriately enough. I started the month with makeup and hairstyling. I am finishing the month with makeup and hairstyling. And truthfully, that is a category that you can have a lone nominee in. Heck, last year I think it had 3 lone nominees, like Kokuo, The Ugly Stepsister, and The Smashing Machine. Those only got into makeup and hairstyling and nothing else, so it is not out of the realm of possibilities. I think it just depends on how popular the film kind of continues its trajectory. The synopsis makes it sound silly and funny, so I'm on board. So, but that's really all I got here. I do think that is the only prospect it has for the Oscars. That's all the films I'm going to be talking about for January. Now, obviously, there were a ton of other ones that I couldn't include. Maybe they just didn't win the awards. Maybe the synopsis wasn't that good. Maybe the reviews weren't that strong. Or maybe I just don't believe it really has any prospects whatsoever. I can't even like pretend, like with Undertone. I'm pretending with Undertone, but can't even do that with those other films. Especially with like documentaries. Like, again, there's so many documentaries. Ones that I just had to leave out. I mean, I'm already at, what, 7? And I could have easily made it like a 10 to 15 list. I just can't do that. But again, I might have to come back, take a movie, and be like, hey guys, I'm sorry I forgot to mention this one. I'm going to include it. Or shift things around. These lists change. They got to with predictions. You're not going to be right on the money, even in the style that I'm doing these in. Now, last thing I do want to go over is where I'm currently at in terms of the full predictions list. I'm going to go through these really fast, and I know this essentially just makes this video kind of pointless. People are probably just going to fast forward to this section and just see this moment, but fuck it, I'm going to do it anyway. So Here we go. Moving quickly here. For actor, currently I have Kingsley Benadier for Frank and Louie, John Turturro for The Only Living Pickpocket in New York, Ethan Hawke for The Wait. For actress, I have Lubna Azabal for Hot Water, and Mason Reeves for Josephine. For adapted screenplay, I have Will McCormick and Rashida Jones for The Invite. For animated feature film, I currently do not have any nominees. For animated short film, I have Stephen P. Neary for Living with the Visionary and Don Hertzfeldt for Paper Trail. For Best Picture, I just have Josephine. For casting, I have Nina Henninger, Nafis Kaptawanawala, and Sarah Kliban for Josephine. For cinematography, I have Greta Zozula for Josephine. For costume design, I currently do not have any nominees. For director, I have Beth de Arajo for Josephine. For documentary feature film, I have Po Si Teng for American Doctor, Felipe Bustos Sierra for Everybody to Kenmure Street, Alex Gibney for Knife, The Attempted Murder of Salam Rushdie, J.M. Harper for Soul Patrol, and Bahana Tortorov and Peter Glomazik for To Hold a Mountain. For documentary short film, I have Stephen Curry and Ben Proudfoot for The Baddest Speechwriter of All, and Ariel Knight for The Boys and the Bees. For film editing, I have Anisha Atria, Nico Lunin, and Carl Ritter for Josephine. For international feature film, I have Hossein Keshavares and Miriam Atai for The Friend's House is Here. For live action short film, I have Lily Platt for Crisis Actor, Chloe Lei King for Don't Tell Mama, Eduardo Braun Costa for The Liars. For makeup and hairstyling, I have Flora Moody for 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, and Zofia Otvos and Agoston Zombor for Wicker. For original score, I have Miles Ross for Josephine. For original screenplay, I have Beth de Arajo for Josephine, and Noah Segan for The Only Living Pickpocket in New York. For original song, I currently do not have any nominees. For production design, I currently do not have any nominees. For sound, I have David Gertzman and John Lawless for Undertone. For supporting actor, I have Rob Morgan for Frank and Louie and Channing Tatum for Josephine. For supporting actress, I have Gemma Chan for Josephine. And for visual effects, I currently don't have any nominees at all. That's all I have for you guys today. I'm sure I butchered quite a bit of those names. I apologize if for whatever reason you're watching this and you're like, wow, dude, great job fucking up my name. I'm so sorry. I will do better. I will try to do better. Anyways, that's all I got. This is the January predictions. I am going to be working on February next. I will try to get that video out within the next few days. If for whatever reason I get busy with work or personal life, I will try to at least put it out by next week. I'm trying to get through these as quickly as possible just so I can end things up with the June predictions. But again, if I just get too busy or things get in the way, I'll at least try to get it done by the end of July so I can do the July predictions. But yes, let me know what you guys think. What movies are you looking forward to that I get to see if I rank or not? Did I miss anything on the list? What early films do you feel are going to make it all the way over to the Oscars? Yeah, talk to me in the comments below, guys. I'm very excited. Let me know if this style works, if it's interesting, how I can improve. I know it's kind of weird to kind of start all the way back in January where we're practically halfway through the year already, but this is the only way to really do it, to give these films its due. Otherwise, I'm going to create like an hour plus video, and I don't know if those do as well as the shorter ones. So that's what I got for you guys. But until the next video, everybody, like always, stay safe out there and have a good one.